Wake up, Tucson. It's your town. Get up and get involved. It's Wake Up Tucson with Chris DeSimone and Joe Higgins.
And never left. I was going to be a mechanical engineer, but I guess I ended up engineering bookstores.
Nice.
And he moved to Sierra Vista. And
where was the first one?
Tucson Boulevard and Broadway, where the DeConcini building is.
Oh, okay. Sure. And then you took the Walgreens on Grant and Campbell.
It was actually a food giant there.
Okay.
And before that, maybe even an El Rancho.
How many you got now? You have the
6 of them.
Oh, okay, so 3 here?
3 here, Mesa, Phoenix, and Flagstaff.
Okay.
And now online, too.
So we want to just do a love fest with Bookman's, but
Yes,
you're here for a
please,
reason,
don't
right?
Stop. I can use a little massage.
Well,
right
I think
here.
there's a couple of things. We want to talk about this issue that comes up. I think Bob's been here long enough in the market that I think he can give us some pretty good insights on where it's going and where it's been, and maybe find a little bit more about Bob from Bookman's, which I think people would love to hear. If you have a call, if you got a call and you have a question for Bob, 790-2040 is the number. So let's get into this issue that's on the front burner, and
Absolutely.
we wish we had you on sooner, but this has brought us together. Okay.
And I've gotten more phone calls about this issue from friends, and hey, you got to get on this. And Gina Murphy-Darling, Mrs.
Right.
Grant, you got to talk to Bob. So I'm so glad you're here to bring us up to speed. So.
It's my pleasure.
Right.
And this whole thing, what we're calling the pawn ordinance, we're required to fill out pawn slips by city and state ordinance on some things we take in and hold them for 20 days. And we all know the city's broke and the police department's broke.
And the purpose of that is to have a database. If there's theft going on and they're pawning things, you can watch.
Absolutely.
Tracking.
And of course, we don't want it. We don't want to be a fence. And thieves deserve the lowest circle of hell, in my opinion, anyway.
Right.
And the pawn shops don't want that either. So it helps the police track these things, and we hold them for 20 days so they have time to go through the data. And it's a pain for them. There's tons of paper slips and so forth, and there is a transition into using computers.
Is there a lot of time that they've come to you and said, hey, this is stolen, we need to find out the history on it? Does that happen?
Very, very rarely. Because anymore, there's eBay, there's Craigslist, there's yard sales. There's 100 other places for thieves to sell their stuff.
Sure.
And so, and of course, they don't want to come to us. They don't want to go to Greg at Super Pawn or any of these other guys because we're locked down.
Right.
And we don't want it. We pass on things we feel uncomfortable about.
Right.
Just whether.
So you mentioned database. Is there an electronic database where a serial number goes in and they can type up a number and poof, it shows, or is it all paper?
Right now, it's mostly paper. There is a new system called Leads Online, and the pawn shops have moved to that. It does require broadband access, and unless you buy a lot of software and hardware, it also requires double entry. You have to fill out the paper slip, and they only want you to use a certain slip, and then you have to enter it in the computer. It's obvious the way things are going to go, and when they get away from that paper slip and do something more like you can print your own PDF slip out, that's going to make it a lot easier. So all that's great, all right? And a pawn law, as I want to say, its only reason for existing should be to catch bad guys or to prevent there being bad guys. And this idea that it should be used for what they love to call revenue enhancement, which I call a tax, to mix those two together is a bad mix because then there's every reason to expand the pawn law and what must be pawned to expand revenue.
Sure.
And
kind of like red light cameras. That's always a debate there. Is it really for safety or is it because it's a revenue stream?
Sure, especially when they start shortening the yellows.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
There's been many studies about that.
Of course.
So they're proposing, the police department, the original proposal was $3 per ticket. So for Bookman's...
No threshold, just anybody walks in? Or is there...
Well, the same tickets that we're now required to do, though there would be an expansion of what you would be required to fill out one of these pawn tickets on. My calculation for Bookman's, just hard costs, would be in excess of $100,000 a year.
Per store?
Now, for the 2 stores in the Tucson market.
Okay.
Now, I will point out, and a lot of people will say, well, they do this in Phoenix. And they're right. There is a $3 charge in Phoenix and Mesa. However, the pawn law is extremely, extremely narrow. So for the 2 stores, which are big stores in Phoenix, the total cost is $6,000 a year. Versus here,
because of the type of items that you have to require?
Yes, it's a $100 threshold.
Okay.
It's only items that are serialized.
So if I come in with 2 CDs and you give me $5, and I don't need them anymore, and you retail them for $15, is that something you need to pay $3
that
on?
would be a $3 charge. And here's the tricky...
Well, you just killed your market.
There's no way I could do it.
You just killed your market.
And some of the proponents of this say, well, just pass that charge on to your customers. Right. like you don't have some other place to go. You can't go to Amazon or something.
I was going to say, so in one of your advantages of selling CDs right now is that they're at least cheaper than buying them new, and you're trying to compete with the iTunes of the world, right?
Absolutely.
Which mostly, they're either going to be $8.99 for a brand new album on iTunes or 99 cents a song. We're going to add an extra $3 to this whole thing, and that just blows the whole
whole
dynamic.
The machinations and the administration of that. They want us to buy these slips up front. So you go down to the finance department.
That's where they collect the $3.
You buy 1,000 of these things for $3,000. Now I got $3,000 in my hand. I got to put it in the safe. I got to take it.
The Benny Hill music's going on.
Exactly. And then I've got these things. I've got to keep them in a safe, right? It's money. Sure. And then you get voids, torn slips, and all. So I'm going to have to save those, send somebody back downtown, stand in line, find a place to park, stand in line, get these things replaced.
And the city's got to hire a new Slip Verifier,
Don't you know it?
It's like Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code. Is this authentic?
I thought we had computers for all this stuff. I can't believe we're just still doing slips. It's crazy.
And that's fine. The city needs some more money. Fine. There might be some other ways to go about it. But this thing has such overhead for us and for the police. And if you look at people like pawn shops, and again, they're like you said, topless bars or cigarettes or alcohol.
Right.
You come in and you want to get $10 so you can buy food that day. No, sorry, I only get to give you 7. So there's a 30% or actually greater tax.
It's not coming out of your end. You know what I mean? It's coming out of another end.
Exactly, so to speak.
Yeah, when you hit a tax on a business guy, they pass it on to their customer.
Yeah, and I can't. Right. And they can on their loans, but it's going to hurt the people.
I talked to some of my buddies that are in the pawn business, and they said, "Look, we have clients that have been with us for years. They need, they just need a little bump to get them to the next paycheck. They'll bring in the tools or the TV, and then they take it back out of pawn. It's kind of the precursor of the payday lending. Before that really hit hard, this was a way folks get from paycheck to paycheck,
and they still do. And my wife loves to tell the story that when she was a kid, she'd be watching TV, and her dad would come in and unplug the TV, and he'd say, "And what's going on? It's for what was it?" Family quality time.
So, we're going to read together. A game night. Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. Take the TV in because he was a trucker, and his cycle of pay was very uneven. And then he'd get paid, he'd get the TV and bring it back. And it happened again and again. And so this thing is a nightmare, and it's crushing the business. And I drive up and down Speedway and Broadway, and you guys do. And there's so many empty retail stores. This is the wrong way to go about it.
Well, you know what? I think we'll get after the break. Want to hit a break?
Let's go to break. Eddie, let's spin us to break. We're with Bob with Bookman's, and he's talking about this pawn charge law that the city wants to do. Again, the city continues its stellar streak of being business friendly to, Yeah, I know.
$40, come on.
Hey, Bob, you need to invest a little more time in this market, and then there'll be a little more coverage too.
33 years isn't quite enough.
Your carpetbagger Bob from Bookman's is on the air with Chris and Joe.
Those damn pawn shops.
Wake up, Tucson. You're on 1030 KBR The Vice. Higgins, Alexander D. Simone. If you got a